ketosis. That's kind of what started it all. There's somebody
But I thought
before
it was
him that actually started it, but I forget what his name was.
I thought the Atkins diet was like super high protein though. So are you
The
still in the
Atkins
ketosis
diet, yeah.
if you're...
The Atkins, yeah, you're still in ketosis because it's super high fat. It's like 60% fat, 70% fat. He talks about it in there, but it's like bacon, shit that's you call it protein food, but that bacon's like 70% fat. You know what I mean? It's like really just fat. So, but there's a lot of resources to find. I think the biggest thing is just, on a ketogenic diet, you don't have to eat 5 or 6 times a day. You don't have to. And because you're using ketones, you're using stored body fat, you're using dietary body fat. So you could have, a lot of people are doing this intermittent fasting thing now, which it could probably work with ketosis. I'm sure people are doing it with ketosis as well.
I tried that, but I really didn't explore it as much as I probably should have. So why don't we talk a little bit about that, intermittent fasting, and then probably get more into cyclic ketosis that you mentioned a little while ago.
So intermittent fasting is you just don't eat for a period of time, and the theory is kind of like the paleo, like our bodies were made to starve for a certain amount of time, and then you finally kill an animal and you eat it, and that's it. Wow, how should we be working? And it gives your digestive system a break, which I really like. It's probably a good idea to give your digestive system a break, your body a break from food. It's good to fast, I would say. At least 3 or 4 times a year. I would say, whether it's a 1-day fast or a 1-week fast or whatever. But intermittent fasting, you're basically fasting every day. So
a window.
Yeah.
Between the window.
With the window. And so basically what that's doing is, giving your body a break, and you eat all the food at one 4-hour period. So if 24-hour period, you'd fast for 20 hours. Sleep for 8, whatever. Get up, not eat until dinner, or, there's different levels of intermittent fasting. But
I haven't messed with intermittent fasting that much, but I'd say, at least on a ketogenic diet, I feel great. It more energy, like I don't have that crash, because at lunchtime, a lot of people have that 3 o'clock crash when they just get sloppy. They get tired at work. They just want to drain. And I mean, I feel a little bit hungry all the time because I'm not eating, carbs. And I don't know if it's my brain telling me, go back, you miss carbs, or is it like, because I feel most of the time not hungry. I'm not that hungry. And I think it's because of all the fat that you're eating that you're just like, okay,
satiation of it.
I'm good.
Yeah, the satiation of fat. It makes things digest a lot slower, and it's a long-term energy, and you're not dealing with ups and downs of eating carbohydrates, of the blood sugar regulation. And ketones themselves kind of suppress your appetite, and like I said, it's a long-term energy, so you don't have, where glucose is short-term. So if you eat a meal, you feel good for an hour or two, and then you kind of start crashing. You got to eat another one. You go back up in blood sugar, and you kind of crash. And then ketones are just kind of a stabilization effect on that, I guess.
I don't know if we mentioned this before, but no fruits. Don't eat fruits in the ketogenic diet. It was like you said before, you want to avoid spiking your insulin, right?
Yeah, fructose is an interesting one because a lot of fructose is low glycemic. Doesn't really increase blood sugar that much, but the fructose itself, that type of sugar, increases liver glycogen. So it helps replace liver glycogen. You want an empty liver in order to go into ketosis, because that's where ketones are made, are in your liver. So
how does that work with the fat? I remember you and I talked about this the other day, about the liver producing the ketones, but it releases the fatty acids, right? That turn back into fat. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Um, so fructose though. First of all, fructose will. So fructose is a good. The reason why fructose is a good sugar to break up fast is because it replaces liver glycogen. So, and in your liver is where ketones are made, and that's where like beta oxidation of fatty acids happens. So all these things happen in your liver, right? So as far as fatty acids are concerned, if you're eating a carbohydrate diet, say you have your liver glycogen is full because you're eating carbs all the time, so it's just usually full. Well, when you break down body fat, right? Triacylglycerols makes triglycerides, and then that's a glycerol and 3 fatty acids. And then it's a lot of times instead of those going into beta oxidation, which you'd have to be exercising or have a respiratory quotient higher than your intake of calories, you would use those for energy. But if your liver glycogen's full and you're not exercising, those fatty acids that are being broken down are just going back and returning back into body fat. So it's like recycling them, but they're, you know what, there's this liver's full of glycogen, you have enough energy, you guys are running on glucose, we're just going to go back to the fat cells till you need us again. You start exercising, your liver glycogen's full, fatty acids come out, oh, you're doing cardio, we're going to come out, you know, you're using some of the glycogen, but you need some help, respiratory transport chain, need to make some ATPs, we're going to come out and you're going to use us, oh, but you have glycogen, so exercise is over, you know, a few hours later, hour or two later, oh, you know what, we're going to go back to the fat cells till you need us again. That's kind of like how that works. So if you don't have liver glycogen and you're in ketosis, then those fatty acids, you know, your body breaks down muscle, your amino acids in your muscle to make glucose to fuel some things, gluconeogenesis, and then it breaks down fatty triacylglycerols, the triglycerides, to fatty acids to also be burned to beta oxidation because you don't have any glucose. So, and then even after exercise is done, you're still in ketosis. So now you continue to burn fat even after exercise is done long term. So 24/7, you're making ketones, you're burning body fat, you're preserving lean body mass because it's protein sparing because you're using those ketones mainly instead of amino acids. But now, instead of high glucose, you're using some proteins and some fats. Now you're using fatty acids, some proteins, and a little bit of, if any, glycogen that you have. But even though, because those amino acids are turned into glucose, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. No, that does. I think a lot of people also don't know that coffee. You want to talk a little bit about that? How the coffee... Caffeine, yes, but the coffee itself, drinking that while trying to get in ketosis can prolong you actually getting into ketosis, right?
Yeah, so caffeine... So the whole point of getting into ketosis is using all your muscle glycogen, liver glycogen, just using all your carbohydrate stores. And coffee actually increases fatty acid oxidation and fat and blood fat levels. So you'll be using a little more fatty acids after you drink caffeine. You have stimulants because of norepinephrine, epinephrine, glucagon's released, the other hormones that coffee deals with. And then so you're, instead of using the carbohydrate stores and trying to get into ketosis, it's kind of sparing that, and instead you're using fatty acids and those type of things. So if you avoid coffee or stimulants until you get into ketosis, you're better off for sure.
Another thing, so one of the fastest ways to probably get into ketosis is to not eat for 2 days or a day, and then just work out really hard. That is probably one of the quickest ways to get into it, right? I mean, there's different approaches to get into ketosis.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's an argument against that you would lose too much lean body mass if you don't eat anything. And I mean, there's some things you can do to get into ketosis, like, you know, like there's herbal things that help lower blood sugar. Anything that helps you lower blood sugar and kind of pushes that glucose into your cells to be used as energy is good. Any glucose disposal agents, they call them. So like old school is vanadyl sulfate was one. Chromium picolinate's another one. Chromium polyniconate is one. Cinnamon is a good one. You know, there's things that help you get into ketosis for sure. That's
we were reading that
insulin injectable.
I was reading yesterday that the ketogenic diet, along with some other diets like the paleo diet, that are actually some of the diets that help prevent some of the chronic diseases that you can get later on in life. Like the American diet is terrible. We were reading the NASM actually yesterday that the 4th edition, that 70% of deaths in the United States are connected to chronic disease. And of that 75%, 57% of it is cardiovascular disease and or cancer. And the crazy thing is 80% of the deaths could actually be prevented if a healthy lifestyle was followed. And the reason I mention that is because it's insane to think that, you know, America thinks it's okay to eat like we do. And I mean, it's hard not to when you have like fries. When you think of fries, I'm going to eat a burger and some fries. You're like, dude, that sounds amazing. I'm just going to pour ketchup, you know, all over it or whatever. And yeah. I mean, right when you eat it, you're like, your brain's like, oh my God, this is awesome. But how many times after we go out to eat Mexican or a steak dinner or whatever it is, you feel like crap. You actually feel like crap afterward. You're not, you know?
So people, I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. Obviously, you're fighting, you know, commercialization of shitty food and like, if you look at different types of diets, you see that like an Asian diet is typically, they live longer. They're smaller people, of course, but they live longer. Different types of nutrition plans, people live longer, you know. So when you talk about like, you know, healthy diets and non-healthy diets, and all those examples you just gave me, all of them have meat in it. So your liver makes its own cholesterol. You can tell somebody that a vegetarian or a vegan diet would help people live longer, obviously excluding meat and any protein type foods. These diets are low in protein. There's studies showing that high protein diets cause cancer. There's things that happen, and you can tell people that, but there's like a mental block, like they don't want to accept that, oh, you know what, I want to have my burger, I want to have my chicken, I want to have my, you know, I've drinking milk forever, it's good for you. That's what the commercials say.
But
right?
it's the same with smoking now. I mean, people know. Like, it's on the frickin' package. It's like,
people,
you know, you're going to get cancer.
Smoke, though, now because there's less commercials and it's not allowed to be glorified. You know, it just, I mean, we're kind of getting off subject, but like anything that takes discipline, which is anything that you have to change that you normally do, would take discipline to stick with because it's not what you're used to, which would be like a ketogenic diet. Actually, I think the best ketogenic diet is a vegan ketogenic diet. Or just a low, if you're going to eat proteins, you know, keep in mind that your body makes its own cholesterol. You don't need an external source of cholesterol, which is sometimes the main issue when you have high insulin levels and prostaglandins and things that create inflammation, comes from cholesterol. Most cholesterol is in what? That you eat. It's in meat. It's in meat. No, it's just in meat. That's it. So, you know, when you sit down, you have a real conversation with someone, like as a client, as a personal training client, I've done this thousands of times. They kind of give you this glossy-eyed stare of, are you telling me I shouldn't eat meat? That's not right. That doesn't sound right. That's crazy. Like, I could never do it. You know, and then so there's your answer. Could you get in shape and could you be lean by eating like meat and a high-fat ketogenic diet? Yeah. Are you healthier by dropping it? Yes. vegans and vegetarians live way longer than people that eat meat.